The moon of Valia Minor glowed like a silver pearl in the endless night. Its forests shimmered with crystal leaves and rivers carried light instead of water. To the Valari it was a sacred world, a garden moon filled with peace, songs, and beauty. No one expected anything strange to fall from the sky that night, but high above a small ship tumbled through the clouds, a human explorer craft damaged by a storm of cosmic dust. Inside it was a boy named Terran, barely 16, clutching the controls with shaking hands. His ship spun as lights blinked red around him. "Please hold together," he whispered, speaking to the ship like it could hear him. "Just a little longer." The sky burned bright as the ship broke through the clouds, leaving a trail of golden fire. It crashed softly into a wide field of glowing grass, the light scattering like dust. Then there was silence, only the hum of the stars above. For a long moment, Terran didn't move. His chest rose and fell as he breathed in the strange, sweet air. When he opened his eyes, he saw colors that didn't exist on Earth. Blue trees with silver bark, flowers that floated in the air, and small, crystal insects that sang like bells. He smiled weakly. "I guess I'm not home anymore." Far away in the Velian palace, a young princess looked up at the sky. Her name was Lyra, daughter of Queen Sariel and heir to the Velian throne. She was known for her curiosity and her habit of wandering away from her lessons to explore the gardens. She saw the streak of light fall from the sky and gasped. "A star has fallen," she whispered to her caretaker Ellen, who stood beside her. "It is a bad sign, Princess," Ellen said softly. "We must stay inside." But Lyra's heart beat fast. "What if it's not a bad sign? What if it's something new?" she said, her eyes bright with wonder. That night, when the palace slept, she slipped away. Her steps were silent, her long silver robe brushing against the glowing grass. She followed the faint trail of light through the trees, her heart full of curiosity and courage. When she reached the field, she saw the strange metal object lying half buried in the grass. Steam rose from it, and beside it something moved. Lyra gasped softly. It was a boy, strange-looking, small by Velian standards, his skin pale, his hair dark. His clothes were torn and a faint line of blood marked his forehead. She didn't know what kind of being he was, but he looked fragile. He opened his eyes slowly and saw her standing over him, her skin glowing faintly like moonlight, her eyes large and kind. "Are you an angel?" he whispered, his voice weak. Lyra tilted her head. "I am Lyra of Velia. Who are you, little traveler?" "Terran," he said, trying to sit up. "My ship, I crashed." "I'm sorry." "I didn't mean to." "You fell from the sky," she said softly, stepping closer. "You are not Valari. You are something new." Terran smiled faintly. "Human," he said. "I'm human." The word was strange to her. "Huh, man," she repeated slowly. "You speak in sounds I do not know." He laughed quietly. "Guess I need to teach you, huh?" Lyra helped him to a quiet corner of the garden, hidden beneath giant crystal trees. There she brought him soft fruit and sweet water from a nearby stream. She used a glowing leaf to clean his forehead, her touch gentle and curious. "Why did you come here, Terran?" she asked. "I didn't mean to," he said. "My ship broke. I was supposed to explore a different star system. Guess it was my bad luck." "Maybe not," she said with a smile. "Maybe you were meant to come here." Over the next few days, Terran stayed hidden in the garden while Lyra visited him in secret. She brought him food, blankets, and small tools from the palace. They learned to speak with gestures, drawings, and simple words. When he couldn't explain something, Terran drew it in the dirt: stars, ships, engines, and the map of his home planet. Lyra listened with wide eyes, amazed. "Your people travel between stars?" she asked one day, her voice full of awe. "Yes," Terran said proudly. "Humans can't fly by themselves, but we build things that can. We always keep trying even when we fail." Lyra thought about that for a moment. "We Valari do not travel much. We already have all we need, but maybe we have stopped dreaming." Terran smiled. "Then maybe you just needed a little reminder." Days turned into weeks. Terran repaired parts of his ship using tools Lyra found for him. It wasn't easy. The materials were different and he didn't want to attract attention. But he kept trying. Lyra watched him, fascinated by his patience. "You never give up," she said once as he worked late under the soft moonlight. Terran shrugged. "That's what humans do. We keep trying, even when it's hard, especially then." She nodded slowly, repeating his words. Keep trying. She liked the sound of it. One afternoon, dark clouds gathered above the palace. A storm of light and wind swept through the trees. Lyra's caretaker came searching for her, calling her name. Lyra panicked and ran toward the garden, but the strong winds caught her robe, pulling her toward the edge of a deep crystal pond. Terran saw her stumble and rushed forward. He grabbed her hand and pulled her back with all his strength. They both fell to the ground, breathless but safe. Lyra looked at him with wide eyes. You saved me, she said softly. He laughed nervously. You saved me first. Guess we're even, she smiled. No, you are brave, Terran. You act before fear can find you. He looked embarrassed. That's just what humans do. We help. Lyra looked at him as if seeing something new. Not just a boy, but a symbol of something larger. When I am queen, she said quietly, I will remember you. I will remember what you taught me, he chuckled. You're serious, aren't you? I am, she said, her eyes shining. I promise that one day I will repay your kindness in a way the stars will remember. Terran didn't know what to say. He just smiled. You don't have to repay anything, Lyra, just don't forget that humans aren't so bad. The next morning, the sound of ships filled the sky. A human rescue vessel had arrived, tracking the distress signal from Terran's ship. Lyra stood with him at the edge of the forest, hidden among the glowing trees. So you will go, she said softly. I have to, he said. They'll take me home. But I'll never forget this place. Or you. Lyra's gaze lowered. You will see many worlds. You may forget this small moon. Never, he said, smiling gently. You were my first friend out here. She touched a glowing crystal pendant around her neck and placed it in his hand. Then take this, Terran. So you will remember me when you look at the stars. He held it carefully. Thank you, Lyra. The rescue team landed nearby. Terran looked back one last time as they called his name. Lyra stood among the shining trees, her silver robe fluttering in the soft wind. She raised her hand and he waved back. The ship rose into the sky, leaving behind trails of blue light. From the window, Terran watched the moon grow smaller and smaller, until it was just a bright speck in the distance. He held the crystal close to his chest. I'll come back someday, he whispered. And on the moon below, Lyra looked up at the same sky. She whispered softly, I will keep my vow, little human. One day the stars will remember your kindness. That night, the winds over Velia Minor sang a gentle song. Some said it was just the breeze through the crystal leaves, but others believed it was something more, a promise carried by the stars themselves, waiting to be fulfilled. Many years had passed since the boy from the stars had left the moon of Velia Minor. Time moved differently for the Volari, but even among their long-lived kind, memories sometimes faded. Yet for Princess Lyra, the memory of the human boy never faded. It grew brighter with every year. She often stood at the same garden where Terran's ship had fallen, her eyes tracing the sky where the light had once burned. She still kept the small solar lamp he had given her, a human invention that never stopped glowing. To her, it was more than an object. It was a reminder of the day she first saw courage that came not from strength, but from kindness. The Velian Empire was vast and filled with light. Its cities floated above the clouds, connected by beams of silver energy. The Volari were peaceful, gentle, and wise, but they were also cautious. They believed that their beauty and order were fragile things that had to be protected from chaos beyond their borders. So, when the old Queen Sariel grew ill, the royal council whispered that her daughter's curiosity was dangerous. She dreams too much, they said. She looks toward the stars, not inward where peace lies. But Lyra did not argue. She learned, she listened, and she waited. And when her mother passed into the light of the after realms, Lyra became Queen Lyra of Velia, young, radiant, and full of quiet purpose. The coronation took place under the great dome of the Crystal Palace, where songs echoed like wind through glass. The people bowed, and Lyra promised to rule with compassion and wisdom. Yet inside she made another promise, one no one else heard. I will not forget the boy who showed me how humans dream, she thought. One day I will open these skies again. In her early years as queen, Lyra began to change small things. She opened schools that taught not only Velian philosophy, but also the languages of other species. She invited travelers and scholars from nearby systems to share their knowledge. Slowly, the empire began to listen. Why must we hide our hearts from the universe? she asked the Council of Elders one morning. The stars are not enemies. They are the roads between souls, the elders frowned. Your Majesty, the last time outsiders came, they brought noise and confusion. Lyra smiled gently. Not all outsiders bring harm. Some bring light. The council said nothing more. They did not understand, but they could not deny that the young queen's heart glowed with something they had never seen before, a hope that made people feel alive. Years went by. Under Lyra's rule, Velia changed. Cities began to connect with other worlds through trade and art. The empire grew richer, not with gold or power, but with friendship and shared ideas. People started calling her the human-hearted queen, though most had never met a human at all. One evening, Lyra stood on the balcony of her palace, looking at the night sky. Stars filled the horizon like a sea of candles. She often wondered if one of them was Terran's home. Did he still remember her? Was he still exploring, building, dreaming? She touched the empty space on her neck where her crystal pendant had once hung, the one she had given him as a goodbye gift. You promised to come back someday, she whispered. But even if you never do, I will keep your lesson alive. On the other side of the galaxy, far beyond the shining stars, Terran had grown too. He was no longer the lost boy who had fallen from the sky. He was now Navigator Terran of the Human Coalition Fleet, one of the youngest star map designers in human history. He remembered the Velian moon often. Sometimes, when he closed his eyes, he could still see Lyra's soft silver glow and hear her gentle voice saying, "Keep trying." He wore her crystal pendant under his flight uniform, always hidden but always close. He never told anyone where it came from, not because he wanted to keep it secret, but because it felt sacred. Something too pure to explain with simple words. Velia Minor. He would whisper sometimes when plotting star routes, "Someday I'll go back." But the galaxy was wide and duty came first. His fleet explored, mapped, and helped smaller worlds join the coalition of free systems, a union built on peace, discovery, and mutual trust. And far away, without knowing it, two old friends were slowly shaping their worlds toward the same dream. It was during the 13th year of Lyra's reign when something strange happened. Across the empire, the skies began to shimmer with faint lines of light, thin cracks almost invisible running between stars. Scholars called them space folds. They didn't seem dangerous at first. They looked like harmless waves of energy. But as months passed, they grew stronger. Planets near them began to lose communication. Ships disappeared when passing through. The Velian scientists tried to understand it, but could not. One day, Lyra stood before her council again. "These folds are growing," she said. "If they reach our core systems, they will swallow everything." The eldest scholar bowed his head. "We have never seen such a thing. It does not come from nature. It may be the work of old machines built before our time." Lyra looked out at the stars. "Then we must find those machines and stop them." "But Your Majesty," said one advisor, "we do not have the knowledge. We need help from beyond Velia, from the outsiders." The room fell silent. All eyes turned to Lyra. She knew what they feared, opening their skies to strangers again. Yet she also remembered a boy who once said, "We keep trying. Even when it's hard." She nodded slowly. "Then we will ask for help. I know who can help us." That night, Queen Lyra stood in her garden, the same one where Terran's ship had once fallen. The flowers still glowed softly, their light reflected in her eyes. She raised her hands toward the stars and activated an ancient beacon, a signal once used for deep space contact. Her voice was calm but strong. "To the humans of the Coalition," she said. "This is Queen Lyra of the Velian Empire. Once, long ago, one of your kind saved my life. Now my world needs help. If your hearts are as brave as his was, come to us. Together, we may yet save the stars." The message traveled far across the galaxy, through dust, through time, through silence. Weeks later, the message reached a human listening station near the frontier. Technicians played the audio and stared in wonder. "Velia?" one whispered. "That's outside the trade zones. I thought they never spoke to outsiders." They sent the message to the Coalition headquarters. And when the notice came through the fleet, one name was highlighted in blue: Navigator Terran. He was sitting in the observation bay when the message appeared on the screen. The name Velia hit him like a heartbeat. He listened to the voice, soft but clear, carrying through the static. He knew that voice. He had heard it once when he was 16, under a sky full of crystal leaves. It can't be, he whispered. Lyra? He touched the pendant on his chest, now glowing faintly in rhythm with the signal. Somehow, after all these years, it recognized the voice too. Terran stood and looked out at the stars. Prepare my ship, he told the captain. I know that world, and I owe someone a promise. Meanwhile, on Valia, Lyra stood at the edge of the royal balcony, watching the folds grow brighter across the sky. They looked like rivers of light cutting through the dark. Her advisors were afraid, but she remained calm. Do you really believe the humans will come? One asked her. Lyra smiled softly. Yes, she said, because I once met one, and he kept his word. Days passed. Then one evening, the palace sensors caught a signal, a fleet approaching from human space. Dozens of sleek ships entered orbit, their lights shimmering like stars reborn. The Velian guards prepared their welcome in awe. Lyra stepped forward, her silver robe shining like dawn. Her heart beat fast, not with fear, but with something she hadn't felt in many years. Joy. When the first human shuttle landed, the door opened slowly. A tall man stepped out, wearing a dark uniform marked with the Coalition emblem. Around his neck hung a small crystal that glowed faintly. Lyra's eyes widened. She knew that light. The man smiled and bowed slightly. Your Majesty, he said softly. You called for help. The Coalition has come. For a moment, neither spoke. The wind carried the sound of soft bells from the palace towers. Finally, Lyra smiled, the same smile she had given him long ago. Welcome back, Terran of the Sky. And as the two old friends looked at each other under the shining moons of Valia, a quiet understanding passed between them. The universe had kept their promise. The boy from the sky had returned, and the queen who once vowed to remember him was ready to keep her word. The stars above seemed to pulse gently, as if they too were listening to the story that was about to begin again. The air shimmered softly around the royal landing platform as the human shuttle doors opened. For a moment, Queen Lyra could only stand still. It was as if the stars themselves had taken shape and stepped into her world, and then he appeared, the man she had once known as a boy. Terran walked forward, dressed in the dark silver uniform of the human coalition fleet. His eyes were steady, his smile gentle. Around his neck, the crystal pendant she had given him long ago glowed faintly, as if it recognized the light of its twin that still hung in the royal hall. He bowed slightly, not like a soldier but like an old friend greeting someone precious. It's been a long time, Lyra, he said softly. The queen smiled, though her eyes shimmered. Too long, Terran of the Sky. The stars kept us apart, but they did not let us forget. Behind him stood a small group of human scientists and engineers carrying strange tools and bright devices. Around them waited the Velian Council, their expressions a mix of caution and curiosity. It was the first time in history that humans and Velari had met as equals. Lyra gestured toward the open balcony where the sky glowed with faint silver cracks. You came at the right time, she said. Our stars are breaking. Terran looked up. The lines of light across the heavens pulsed gently, like rivers of energy. He frowned, his hand resting on the small scanner on his wrist. I read about the space folds in your signal. It's worse than we thought. Can you help us? She asked. He looked at her, then nodded slowly. If I couldn't, I wouldn't have come. That night in the Royal Observatory, humans and Velari worked side by side. The wide glass dome above them showed the strange, beautiful distortion of the sky, like ripples in water, but vast enough to swallow entire worlds. Lyra stood beside Terran as he studied the readings. The hum of the instruments filled the air, but between them was a soft, comfortable silence, the kind that existed only between those who truly trusted each other. Your empire is even more beautiful than I remembered, Terran said quietly, but the energy readings here are strange. It feels like something is alive in the folds. Alive, Lyra repeated. Not in the way we think of life, he said. More like a rhythm, a pulse. Something ancient. Lyra nodded thoughtfully. Our scholars once spoke of the eternal pathways, bridges between worlds made by the ancestors. They said those bridges were sealed long ago because they were too powerful for us to control. Then maybe one of them reopened, Terran said. And now it's spreading. They shared a look, half curiosity, half worry. Can you stop it? She asked. Terran exhaled slowly. Maybe, but I'll need to see the source. Over the next few days, Terran and his team set up a command base near the Crystal Sea, where the strongest fold energy was concentrated. The Volari watched in fascination as humans built structures with speed and precision, their small tools glowing blue as they assembled scanners, transmitters, and shields. The Volari used to believe that humans were wild and impatient, but as they observed, they began to see something else: cooperation, adaptability, and hope. Queen Lyra visited often, her robe shining softly in the sun. She asked questions, learned from their methods, and even helped carry instruments. "You work as one," she said to Terran one evening. "Each of you has a task, yet you move together like waves." "That's how humans survive," he said with a smile. "We're small in this universe, so we stand close to each other. Together we become strong." Lyra looked at him quietly. "Maybe that is what we were missing all these years. We stood apart for too long." One night, Terran was sitting outside his tent looking up at the stars. The folds were brighter now, silver cracks slowly connecting into a vast web. He knew they didn't have much time. He felt someone's presence and turned. Lyra was there, carrying a small crystal lantern. "You should rest," she said softly. Terran smiled. "I could say the same to you, Your Majesty." She sat beside him, her long robe brushing against the grass. "You never called me that before," she said, a hint of amusement in her voice. "Well, you weren't a queen before," he replied lightly. She laughed softly, a sound like wind chimes. "Perhaps not. But sometimes I still feel like that curious girl in the garden." Terran looked at her, his eyes gentle. "And I still see her. You haven't changed much, Lyra." She smiled faintly, then looked up at the glowing sky. "When I was a child, I thought the stars were perfect, pure and unbroken. But now I see they are full of cracks, just like us." "Maybe that's what makes them beautiful," Terran said. "Even broken light can shine." For a while, they just sat together in silence, watching the folds shimmer. It felt peaceful, even though danger was near. The next morning, Terran's team detected something unusual deep beneath the crystal sea, a massive structure buried under layers of glowing sand. The readings were clear. It was the source of the fold energy. "It's an ancient Valian device," Terran said, pointing at the holographic map. "It looks like a power bridge, something that connects different dimensions." Lyra frowned. "Our old records spoke of such a thing. The heart of pathways. It was built to open doors between worlds, but the ancestors sealed it when it became unstable." "Well," Terran said, adjusting his wrist scanner, "it's awake again." He looked at Lyra. "If we can reach it, we can stabilize it. But we'll need both human tech and Velian energy. One without the other won't work." Lyra nodded without hesitation. "Then we will do it together." The next few days were full of quiet activity. The humans built energy regulators while the Volari prepared crystals to harmonize with their power. The two groups learned from each other, sometimes laughing, sometimes staring in wonder at how differently they solved the same problems. For the first time in history, humans and Volari worked as one. At night, Terran barely slept. He kept studying the readings, checking every calculation twice. He couldn't let anything go wrong, not when Lyra's world was at stake. When she came to check on him, she saw the tired lines under his eyes. "You should rest," she said again, placing her hand lightly on his shoulder. "Even stars must pause before they shine again." He smiled. "You always talk like a poet. And you always work like you're racing the universe," she replied gently. "You have not changed, Terran." "Maybe that's a good thing," he said softly. "Or maybe I just learned from you." She tilted her head. "From me?" He nodded. "You taught me that helping others isn't weakness. It's the only thing that makes us stronger." Lyra looked away, hiding a small smile. "Then perhaps we are both still learning." By the 7th day, everything was ready. The crystal sea glowed brighter than ever, waves of light rippling like liquid stars. The ancient structure below pulsed with energy, slow, steady, and powerful. Terran stood beside Lyra on a floating platform above the glowing water. The air shimmered around them as human machines and Velian crystals began to hum in harmony. "This will work," Terran said. "It has to." Lyra touched the control orb that linked her mind to the crystal network. "You once said humans keep trying," she whispered. "Then so shall we." The systems activated, sending streams of light through the air. The folds above began to react. The cracks flickered, changing from wild flashes to soft rhythmic waves. Terran watched the readings rise. "It's stabilizing," he said. "Just a bit longer." The ground beneath them trembled, but the lights began to settle. Across the sky, the glowing fractures started to fade, turning into peaceful streams of silver. Lyra closed her eyes and smiled. "It's working." Terran exhaled, relief washing over him. "We did it, Lyra," the sea quieted. The stars returned to their normal glow. The humans cheered softly, and the Volari bowed their heads in gratitude. Lyra turned to Terran. "You came back to us, and you saved not only Velia, but all the stars that share our skies." He shook his head. "No, we saved them together." For a moment they simply looked at each other, the reflection of the calm silver sea dancing in their eyes. Then Lyra spoke quietly. "This is what I promised long ago, that one day I would repay your kindness in a way the stars would remember." Terran smiled gently. "Then I guess you kept your vow." That night the sky over Velia was brighter than ever. The folds had turned into long, gentle ribbons of light, peaceful reminders of the storm that had passed. In the royal palace, Lyra stood by the window looking up. "The stars remember," she whispered. Far above, in the human command ship, Terran sat by the viewing deck holding the crystal pendant in his hand. It pulsed softly as if answering her words across the vastness of space. Two worlds, once strangers, were now bound by trust, and by a promise kept across time and stars. The sky above Velia shimmered softly, reflecting the calm after the storm. The folds of light that had threatened the stars now glowed gently, like rivers of silver flowing across the heavens. But the relief was quiet and careful. Terran and Queen Lyra both knew this peace could be fragile. Terran stood at the edge of the crystal sea platform, watching the water glow beneath him. The human instruments hummed softly, synchronized with the Velian crystals embedded in the platform. Together they formed a network of energy, balancing the power of the ancient heart of pathways. "Do you feel it?" Lyra asked, stepping beside him. Her silver robe shimmered in the reflection of the glowing sea. Terran nodded slowly. "Yes, it's almost alive." "Alive?" she asked, curiosity lighting her eyes. "Not like you or me," he said, "but like the universe itself is breathing, like it wants to be healed." Lyra studied the soft waves of light that danced across the sky. "Then we have to make sure it heals correctly," she said. "If it fails, the folds will return, and this time they could be worse." Terran placed a hand gently on one of the floating human regulators. "It will work, but I need someone to guide the energy from the crystals below while I adjust the flow above." "I can't do both at once," Lyra looked at him steadily. "Then I will guide it. I know how to feel the energy. You taught me that courage is stronger than fear, and now I will be brave." He gave a small smile. "I've always known you would be." The next hours were quiet, focused, and full of tension. The humans and Volari moved around the platform, carefully adjusting instruments and crystals. Light threads stretched from the crystals into the sky, connecting with the folds above. The heart of pathways pulsed beneath the sea, sending waves of energy that both fascinated and intimidated the observers. Terran climbed to a higher platform to activate the stabilizers. He worked with precision, hands steady, though his mind remained alert to every reading. Every faint ripple in the sky made his heart beat faster. Lyra stood below, her hands hovering over the Velian crystals, feeling their energy and guiding it through the human devices. Light flowed through her fingertips, shimmering into the sky, slowly weaving with the folds to calm them. For hours, they worked side by side, the human boy who had once fallen from the sky, and the Velian girl who had once been saved by him. Their movements were coordinated not through speech but through trust. The energy began to stabilize. The silver folds pulsed rhythmically, their wild streaks slowly smoothing into patterns that resembled flowing rivers. But the task was not yet complete. One section of the fold remained unstable, a bright, jagged line that threatened to tear through the sky like a lightning bolt. Terran frowned, adjusting the calibrations of the stabilizers. "It's coming from the core," he said. "I need to get closer. But the energy is dangerous. If I miscalculate—" "You will not miscalculate," Lyra said firmly. "I will be with you." He shook his head, worried. "No, I can protect you better if you stay here and guide the flow." She placed a hand on his arm. "And I can protect you by being brave with you. You saved me once, Terran. Now I can help you." He looked into her eyes, seeing the same quiet determination he remembered from long ago. Then, together. he said softly. The two of them moved toward the center of the crystal sea, where the heart of pathways pulsed strongest. Light radiated from the structure, reflecting off the water, creating a bridge of silver that connected them to the sky. The air hummed with power, vibrating softly beneath their feet. Terran activated the stabilizers, sending waves of human-engineered energy toward the fold. Lyra mirrored the flow with her crystals, weaving Velian energy into the pattern. For a moment, nothing changed. Then suddenly the jagged line in the sky shivered, trembling as if it had been touched for the first time. "Keep going," Lyra whispered. Terran nodded. "Almost there. Just a little more." They continued to work side by side, adjusting flow rates, rebalancing energy, and guiding light. Slowly, the jagged line began to smooth, blending into the silver rivers around it. The fold pulsed gently once, and then it calmed. The sky above Velia became serene, peaceful, and whole. The stars shone brighter than ever, as if smiling in gratitude. Terran exhaled, relief flooding him. He looked at Lyra. "We did it," he said, his voice soft. Lyra smiled, her eyes glimmering. "We did it together," she said. The human engineers and Velian scientists cheered quietly. They had expected it to be impossible, but now it was done. Lyra stepped closer to Terran. "Do you remember?" she asked softly. "The day you saved me in the garden?" He nodded, smiling faintly. "I remember. You promised to remember me too." "And I did," she said. "That promise brought us here. To this moment. To the stars being safe." Terran's eyes softened. "It's funny. I never imagined a boy who falls from the sky could return to this." Lyra laughed lightly. "Nor did I imagine the boy would grow into a man who could save not only a girl, but all the stars." They stood together in silence for a moment, letting the soft light of the restored sky wash over them. The crystal sea reflected their faces, two friends whose bond had survived time, distance, and space itself. After the work was done, Lyra invited Terran to the palace. The corridors glowed softly with crystal lamps, and the Velian people whispered in awe as the humans passed. "Your people have a remarkable mind for innovation," Lyra said as they walked through the halls. "But it is your heart that matters most. You never gave up on helping others, even when it seemed impossible." Terran smiled. "Humans always try, and sometimes we find inspiration from others. Like you. From me?" she asked. "From the day you first hid me in the garden," he said. "You taught me courage, kindness, and curiosity. Those lessons, I've carried them my whole life." Lyra nodded. "And you've reminded me that courage can come from anyone, even a boy from the stars." That evening, the Queen and the human navigator stood on the balcony overlooking Velia's glowing city. The stars twinkled above like scattered crystals, peaceful and bright. "You saved us all?" Lyra said softly. "No," Terran replied. "We saved each other. You trusted me and I trusted you. That is what made it possible." For a long moment they simply gazed at the stars, the city below, the crystal sea, the calm sky. All of it seemed to shine with a new light, a quiet celebration of courage, trust, and friendship. Then Lyra smiled faintly. "You once said humans always keep trying. I believe it now. Not because of machines or skills, but because of the heart." Terran looked at her, admiration in his eyes. "And you never gave up on your promise. That is something I will never forget." The soft night wind passed over the city, carrying a sense of calm across the empire. Somewhere between the stars and the crystal sea, two friends shared a moment that would live forever. A quiet memory of courage, trust, and light. The folds that had threatened the stars were gone. But what remained was far more powerful. A bond that connected two worlds and reminded everyone that even across vast distances, hearts could shine together. In the days that followed, Velia and the humans began preparing for the future. They formed a council to maintain the heart of pathways together, combining human ingenuity and Velian wisdom. Ships from both civilizations shared knowledge, technology, and culture. Queen Lyra and Terran often worked together, planning new explorations and sharing stories of courage from both worlds. The young queen had kept her vow, not with wealth or power, but with trust, friendship, and remembrance. Terran knew that he had found a home among the stars, not a place, but a promise, a bond, and a people who believed in courage and kindness. And Lyra had discovered that the heart of a human could illuminate even the most distant galaxy. The stars over Velia now pulsed softly, not with danger, but with calm energy. The silver rivers of the sky reflected the strength and hope that two civilizations had built together. And somewhere, between the light of the restored heavens and the hearts of the Queen and the Navigator, the universe itself seemed to breathe, peaceful, whole, and bright. Months had passed since the folds of light above Velia had been tamed. The skies shimmered peacefully now, silver rivers flowing calmly between stars, reflecting the bond that had been built between humans and Valari. Queen Lyra often walked in her palace gardens, her mind full of thoughts about the future. The crystal sea sparkled under the soft moons, and the city hummed with life, the harmony of technology and magic, humans and Valari working side by side. Yet no matter how much the empire flourished, her heart still carried the memory of a small human boy who had fallen from the sky so many years ago. He returned, she whispered to herself one evening, watching a human shuttle leave for distant stars. He kept his courage, and I kept my vow. Terran had been busy as well. He oversaw the human Velian council that maintained the heart of pathways, ensuring the energy between worlds remained balanced. He had become a familiar figure among the Valari, admired not just for his knowledge but for his quiet humility and determination. One afternoon, Lyra requested his presence in the palace. Taran arrived, greeting her with a respectful nod. "Your Majesty," he said softly, though the tone was warm and familiar. "Please," she replied with a gentle smile. "Call me Lyra. We are no longer strangers in these halls." He nodded, placing a hand over his chest where the crystal pendant rested. "It still glows," he said. "I think it remembers us both." Lyra looked at him thoughtfully. "It does. So do I." The Queen led Terran to the central hall of the palace, where a vast holographic map displayed star systems and glowing energy pathways. Velian and human engineers moved gracefully between the displays, adjusting calibrations and recording observations. "This is the alliance of the twin stars," Lyra said proudly. "Our people working together. We monitor the pathways, explore new worlds, and share knowledge. The human heart and the Velian heart, side by side." Terran smiled, quietly impressed. "It's incredible," he said, "the way you've built trust between your people and mine. Not with rules or orders, but with care." "Yes," she replied softly, "and it started with a promise. A promise I made when I was just a girl and you were a boy who saved my life." He paused, looking at her with gentle admiration. "That promise has changed more than just our worlds. It has changed everything." The next weeks were filled with planning for exploration. Ships were built together, using Velian crystal energy and human engineering. Scientists from both civilizations shared discoveries. Terran often found himself walking beside Lyra in the palace gardens, talking quietly about the stars. They discussed routes to distant worlds, the mysteries of strange planets, and the wonders of civilizations neither had yet met. "Do you ever wonder what the boy in the garden would have thought if he saw all this?" Lyra asked one afternoon, her eyes tracing the silver rivers of the sky. Terran laughed softly. "I think he would be amazed, and maybe a little afraid, but mostly he would be proud, because this is proof that humans can make a difference even across the stars." Lyra smiled. Then perhaps he knew what humans could do all along. One day, Lyra called Terran to a high balcony overlooking the crystal sea. Below, lights from Velian and human workshops glimmered in harmony. The rivers reflected silver streaks from the energy bridges connecting distant cities. "I want to show you something," she said, holding his hand gently, "a reminder of the promise we made to each other so long ago." From beneath her robes, she took a small crystal, glowing faintly. It was the pendant she had given Terran when he left Velia as a boy. Terran's eyes widened as he saw it. "You kept it," he whispered, taking it in his hands. "I kept my vow," Lyra said softly, "not just to remember you, but to honor what you taught me. That courage, kindness, and curiosity can change everything." He looked at her, his heart full. "And you've done it. Not just for me, but for everyone." The crystal between them pulsed softly, reflecting the light of the moons and the calm energy of the restored sky. Terran held it carefully, feeling the warmth of trust and friendship. "Do you remember," Lyra asked, "the first time you saved me? How small you were, and how big your courage felt?" "I remember," he said. I didn't know then that a simple act could lead to this, to two civilizations working together, to the stars being safe, to a promise kept after so many years. Lyra nodded, her silver hair catching the sunlight. Sometimes the smallest actions echo across time and space. You showed me that, and now we both know it is true. They stood together, two friends whose bond had endured the years, the distance, and the vastness of the galaxy. Months turned into years. The alliance of the twin stars expanded, bringing together more civilizations, sharing knowledge, and exploring the wonders of the universe. Velian and human children learned from one another, laughing and discovering the joy of curiosity. Terran became a respected ambassador between worlds, admired not for power or authority, but for his courage, humility, and unwavering heart. Lyra ruled with wisdom and compassion, earning the love and respect of her people and beyond. Yet in quiet moments, they would meet in the palace gardens or on the edge of a platform overlooking the crystal sea and talk about stars, friendship, and the promise that had started it all. One evening, as twin moons reflected on the calm waters, Lyra turned to Terran. "Do you ever think about the boy you were?" she asked softly. He smiled faintly. "Every day. That boy taught me so much. About courage, about kindness, about what it means to care for someone without expecting anything in return. You've carried that," she said, looking at him warmly. "And it has shaped everything. You remind me that humans can shine even in the darkest spaces between stars." Terran looked at the glowing sky, then at the queen who had once been a princess in the garden. "And you," he said, "have shown me that even one promise can change a galaxy." They stood together quietly, the world calm around them. Somewhere in the distance, children from both civilizations were laughing, playing, and looking up at the stars. Somewhere else, explorers were charting unknown systems, inspired by the courage of one boy and one girl who had never forgotten each other. Years later, the story of the boy who saved a princess and the queen who kept her vow became a legend. Not a tale of battles or treasure, but of courage, trust, and the power of kindness. Across the galaxy, people spoke of it, humans and Valari, and even distant civilizations who had joined the alliance, as a reminder that even small actions could have extraordinary effects. Terran sometimes stood on the observation deck of his ship, watching the ribbons of silver light across the sky. The stars seemed to shimmer more brightly here than anywhere else in the galaxy. He held the crystal pendant close, remembering the day it had been given to him. "Promise kept," he whispered softly. On Velia, Queen Lyra gazed at the same stars, her heart full. "Promise kept," she echoed. Somewhere between their worlds, the universe seemed to glow a little brighter. The heart of Pathways pulsed softly, a reminder that courage, friendship, and kindness could ripple across time and space, changing everything. In the end, it was not the strength of armies or the cleverness of machines that saved the stars. It was the courage of a boy who acted when it mattered, and the wisdom of a queen who remembered that kindness is stronger than fear. It was a promise kept, a bond remembered, and a light shared across worlds, a quiet truth that no darkness could ever erase. And so, the stars watched over Velia and humanity alike, as two friends, once a boy and a girl, proved that even in the vastness of space, hearts could shine together.